One thing about it, the meetings are short, so they don't take long.
Yeah, it won't take long. You just make stuff up and make it last very long.
No, I didn't make anything up, okay? I want to make that perfectly clear.
Deal.
Everything I reported actually happened.
You didn't use an extra adjective anywhere? Just
Maybe an adjective.
just a little.
Embellishment.
Do you want me to do it? I'll do it.
Steph said she'd do it now the rest of the year, so.
So nice.
Does it have to do with somebody that's not here yet?
I can't lie. Seal at least.
Courtney, are there age limits on helping with the vote?
Well, they have to be able to vote.
My grandson said that they asked the FF.
For high school kids too, I think. I might be able to do it at some.
He thought he was going to. You're only 15 years old.
I don't know. I was thinking that they had to be older, but I might be
Yeah,
wrong.
and yeah, that's what he told me. He might want to check into that. Maybe the older.
Because my daughter helped.
Good morning, Dean.
With one of our
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
documents stating she could miss school to do that or whatever.
No.
That's really neat to have younger kids do that.
It
Yeah.
is.
To spark some interest in
The
it.
only thing that bothered me was, you do all that training for these kids and
It's a 1 year deal.
then,
Yeah, all the one year.
yeah. But you need the help, it doesn't really matter if it's not done.
Guys took down my good clock I used to look at.
It wasn't working and it was driving me crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
Just joking.
You guys don't need me here for the fire suppression thing.
Should be. Well, I actually might need to explain what a server is to a couple people and things like that. You wanna sit here and do that?
Explain it to me first. Just be a server, somebody that hands you pie.
Or a drink.
Fair enough.
And some big pie.
Looks to me like you've been around a lot of servers.
Scott, did you check with them? I did, I just sent him something.
I'm in feisty mode today.
I thought so
Our
too,
actual
but
agenda was different.
this has to do with like our in-park staff and,
You got everybody
yeah, I
that's short.
just sent him an email about it.
And I understand why.
Well, if you find out where.
All right, everyone, it's
Okay.
9 o'clock. I think we'll go ahead and open up with the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag.
Of the United States of America.
America, and to the republic for which it stands,
stands.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Does anybody have any changes or additions to the agenda this morning? Courtney has none. If I hearing none up there, I'm take a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the approval of the agenda. Call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, motion carries. All right, the minutes would be.
Yeah, so it'd be the October 19th meeting.
Everybody have?
I've reviewed the minutes of the Monday meeting, which was October 19th. I'll move to approve them as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of October 19th minutes. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. First thing up is secondary road, Zach.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just one item on the list today. This is a drain that we had talked about here a few weeks ago, DD 49. Did go out and take a look at it. Dean also went out with me and looked at it. And I guess it's what we expected it to be from a standpoint of it's failed in more than 300 feet, I guess, off and on, completely gone in some locations. But I think we've worked out a possible solution to get this thing put back together. It's going to entail hauling some dirt back in to fill in because it's a kind of a gully basically where the pipe used to be in some places. I did talk with the property owner, and I think he's agreed to put in a waterway, at least for the upper end of it, to try to help protect it a little bit. Dean had a conversation about that, and I think everyone's kind of on the same page as far as trying to get this fixed back up and put back together. I did some preliminary cost estimation on this and the pipe and then labor and get some dirt hauled in there. We're probably talking anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 because it's a large tile.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty 18,
26 inch.
26.
Mm-hmm. So I guess before we proceeded, I wanted to revisit that. And I guess, Dean, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, not really. You know, I think in the past we've had, even when Dave was here, we had some problems with the tenant. But it looks like now it's time that they pretty much agreed there's no other option for them. They need to get this fixed, and they agreed to go ahead with it. So is that what you heard, Zach?
So we're gonna wind up with an open cut, basically drain for 100 yards, 200 yards.
Well, we're going to replace put tile back in. We're going to put tile back in where it should have been.
Okay.
And fill in the holes.
But there'll be a waterway on top of the tile.
Right. Ideally, if we can make it work, we'll get the water so that it's not directly on top, but kind of off on the side, and have the water, the bottom of the waterway just offset from the tile if we can, but we're very close to it.
Okay.
Would be the intent. And there is waterway upstream from this that it's held very well. Looks like it's doing exactly what it should do. So I think it worked.
I think we did a project similar to this down in Coon Rapids, so. And it's-
So, Zach, when you're saying hauling dirt in, how much are you talking about?
Oh, 50 or 60 loads maybe. It's going to take.
Is that just to fill the holes, or is that to cover the pipe?
Well, both. I mean, there's places where the pipe's completely gone and it's eroded, where there's probably a 3 foot plus 4 foot hole. And there's other places where it's washed out on top of the pipe and just very, very low lying that we can shape up and make drain a little bit better surface wise. So a little bit of both, Gene.
It could be dirt, we can get local.
I think
close
so.
To the,
I don't know how close, but I'm sure we'll be able to find some.
okay.
Briefly talked with Chris about that, and yeah, I'm sure that'll be on his radar to do some report.
Okay.
Exactly. And from a timeline perspective, I need to talk to the tenant, but ideally, if we can get in there yet this fall, that'd be better for everybody, I think. So sounds like the weather's going to turn around again, at least for a while. So we'll see what happens, but we'll get the pipe ordered and kind of go from there.
Sounds good.
Right. So to make sure I understand this, you're not going to change the outlet at all. You're just going to replace the damaged tile and haul in dirt. And is the tenant going to seat down a waterway on top of it, or how's that going to happen, Zach?
I need to talk with him again about who's gonna seat it down. I guess I would prefer that he seat it down. My thought is that we'll be there kind of doing the dirt work anyway, so we'll try to maybe shape it for him, get his kind of blessing on it, how he'd like to see it in there, and then let him kind of manage his waterway per se.
So when you get done, how much cover is gonna be on top of this tile?
I'm hoping there's 2 foot. It's shallow all the way through that whole field. We'll kind of see how it works out, but it's not going to be a lot.
So if they do any maintenance work on that waterway, is that gonna affect that tile? Is that gonna hold up?
Well, that's why I think it's important to try to keep the tile off the dead bottom of the waterway and keep the tile kind of on the edge of the waterway. That way,
You get more cover then.
try to get a little bit more. And we might have more than 2 foot when it's all said and done, but I don't know for sure. We're going to see how it works out.
Are you planning on replacing with concrete or PVC?
I think we're going to do dual wall plastic is what we're going to put in
Dual
there.
plastic. I was gonna say that way if somebody did drive over, it probably won't collapse as easy as that concrete.
Right.
Good choice.
I think that was the concern the first time we discussed this was actually farming through that, and hitting that tile. So we've eliminated that by putting the waterway back in.
And I think they have to be aware of that because, down the road, somebody else do the same thing. Property changes hands, but that is.
If you look,
so shallow that anything could happen to it.
yeah, if you look at the waterway picture, Zach, we had talked about extending that probably 100 to 200 feet, something like that.
Yeah, beyond where the tile's even bad, yeah, to the south.
Right.
Yep.
The landowner is okay with it, not jumping up and down with joy, but okay with it.
Yeah, I think the landowner and the tenant are okay at this point in time. So.
Okay, thanks for going up on that too, Dean, because I just couldn't make that work, so.
Who is the landowner? Is it Nyla?
Yep.
Nyla
That's
Hewen.
what I thought. Okay.
Okay, any more discussion on that? We need an approval for that.
I think so. So when we brought it up last time, I think we kind of tabled it until
That's
we
quite a
had
bit of money.
more information, so.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the work to be done on Drain 49 on the Houghton property. That'd be in section 32 of Sheridan, I believe.
I'll second that motion.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on it? Okay, if not, I'll call for the vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Anything else?
Really all I had, just, obviously got a little test with snowplows yesterday and today. Glad it was as little as it was, and the forecast is looking like we're not gonna have to go out again for a while, so that's
good.
So,
That's good.
only other thing is we are still working on towards moving forward and trying to get a salt sand building put up in Glidden over there on our property. I brought that up here a couple months ago. I don't know if we're going to get to it this fall yet, but we're still kind of working towards that. Just so we have to have a bunker there to be able to.
You're just using a push bunker, you're putting a hoop over the
We
top.
put a hoop over top and concrete bottom and just cuts down the return trips a lot further than on the east side of the county.
Yeah. Very good.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Right, the next thing up is the IT department, the clean agent system. And as I kind of remember with the baiting update last week, they were telling us that change for the clean agent system was in the neighborhood of 30,000. Is that how you recall it? It was plus 30,000?
Right, I think I printed it off. He had it out here, 30,140 or 176.
Okay, so I discussed that with Dalton again, and he's has a little presentation he'd like to show us here quick. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll go back into some discussion about it.
Thank you, Rich. So, everybody received my email on kind of an overview of the suppression system and the reason why we're pushing for it. I did want to show you, like he said, a quick presentation. Let me pull it up here. I'm going to share my screen so everyone can see it. All right, cool. All right. So the first question, I'm sure everybody's asking, what is a clean agent fire suppression system? The one that we're looking at, it actually extinguishes fires without any water at all. It floods the room with gas and is able to extinguish a fire with no residue left over. So it's a pretty quick deal. It's safe for electronic equipment, whereas, as we know, a water suppression system, we're pretty much guaranteed we're going to ruin everything. So if the sprinklers were to go off, we're going to have water in our server. The problem with sprinkler systems, they're not designed to actually put out a fire. They're designed to suppress a fire until the fire department arrives and is able to put the fire out. They don't activate till around 135 to 165 degrees, which by that time we're going to have a just trash. It's going to burn everything out. Then, like I said, water conducts electricity, so that's probably not a good deal if we had a water suppression system. So this is a quick video. It'll show you kind of how this gaseous system works. It's kind of an interesting deal. Only about a 1.5 minute video, so we're going here. Maybe. Just 2 seconds here. No. So on the system, you can see where the fire is just beginning to start. It has a couple sensors in here. There's one on the left and one on the right. It needs confirmation from both of those sensors for it to be able to release the gases. So once the second sensor, it confirms there's a fire, it starts alarming in the room, let everybody know to get the heck out. It's a pretty loud alarm, and said you can hear it from a couple blocks away. So that way, if nobody's in the room when this gas is released, because it probably wouldn't be a good deal if they were there. But hopefully if a fire was happening in the server room, everybody's gonna get the heck out anyways. So moving forward just a little bit here, it rings out to the fire department for you, lets them know there's a fire in the server room, and then flashes a sign above the room not to enter because it's getting ready to release the gas to knock the fire down. So after that, the gas releases, it shuts off all the ventilation to that server room, so it can't pump it throughout the building, and confirms that the fire's out, and it takes about 5 minutes. The gas evaporates, the residue left, and the fire is out. Hopefully equipment is saved. Questions?
Dalton, I appreciate you sending out the email so we know how much value we are protecting. A question I have is, are we backing up off locations that we are protecting equipment as opposed to data or information?
Understand that the dollar amount that I sent you is equipment only. I'm not calculating any data into that. That's because my data is backed up. So this is the cost to replace the equipment only with the current specs of our hardware. Because a lot of our sands and stuff, Carl and I paid to upgrade them and extended the warranties out. But there's a lot of money in hardware sitting there. And if we were to calculate software, and it would be at least double that amount, I'm sure, that I've seen you.
But is our data protected being backed off or backed up in the cloud or at another location?
Yes, we do have a DR site.
I have no doubt that this system would work and be better than a sprinkler system. The cost is what concerns me. It's $30,000. Is that equipment already insured? Are we insuring insurance? What's the situation there?
So we do have insurance, obviously, but it's more of a matter of time. So let's say a small fire were to happen, and if a sprinkler system were to be in there, like if one of my servers were to catch on fire, the sprinkler system's not going to go off until it's too late. Whereas if I had the gaseous system in there and a server fire were to start, I might lose one server and spend, not that long getting everything back up. If a fire happens, I mean, we're talking months down. So I guess that's my main concern, is just avoiding a disaster happening. I'm not going to say I've never caught anything on fire downstairs before, because I plugged in some old stuff and had some smoke come out a few times. So it's not unheard of for fires to happen.
Okay. Still being the devil's advocate, what's the chances of such fire occurring? Has anything happened in a county, or what's the situation there as far as a possibility of fire occurring there?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't have direct statistics. For instance, how hot a server room gets, just if there's no air conditioning. Like our two server rooms that we have, we actually have external air conditioning systems that run 24/7. We have one break recently, and going into that room, it was already 100 degrees after it broke almost. So you get all that heat in there, and then there's just a lot of equipment sitting there that can catch on fire, I guess.
So Dalton, are we moving everything from the basement to the jail?
Yes, currently where my rack sits now, I have a couple water lines that sit above them that I think are 6 or 7 inch water lines. On down the line, they've leaked already on that same pipe. So we're just pretty much waiting to get the server out underneath there as soon as we can.
Okay, so if we get a fire in the building itself, outside of the server room,
Yep.
and the temperature hits 135 degrees, what happens then? I mean, there's no fire in the server room itself, but
So in theory, let's say a fire were to happen and smoke would probably flood the room, seeing how we don't have an active ventilation system that shuts off or anything fancy like that until the smoke gets into there. So I believe if a fire were to be happening around it, there would be some protection, I guess, if the fire were to enter the room. But it takes the smoke going in and the 2 devices detecting the smoke for it to go off. But yeah, I guess if we're that bad off, where the fire's that hot to get into a cement server room, I think we're gonna have bigger issues.
Yeah. So does this system have to be recharged every year, or?
It's one of those things where I think once you get the system, just like our fire extinguishers, you have to have somebody come and service them.
Right.
and I'm sure every few years they'll probably be charged. That would be a cost we'd have to look into. I'm not sure on that specifically.
And if it would happen to go off, then we would have to completely recharge the whole system again. Correct?
In theory, but I think if that thing's going off, there's going to be an insurance claim. So it's,
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Is there, you probably don't know this, is there any discount for our insurance rate for having something like that that could possibly save them some heartache on the other end of it?
yeah, that's a good question. I honestly don't know.
If they give us a little discount
I
on
think
that?
so.
I would think so, because you're hedging the bet for them, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would think if somebody emailed Terry at Iowa, you should be able to answer that or get an answer. I can email one myself.
Yeah. No, I think something.
And if I would just ask him if we get a credit for a dry fire suppression system in
Yeah.
our server room in the jail, and see what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would, if you, one of you two, I mean, I don't care.
That's fine.
I'll probably include you in it.
Yeah, you can see an email and then we'll go from there.
Water's been our biggest fear.
Yeah.
You know, since we,
Did we not have a leak in the recorder's office that kind of got us almost in trouble over there one time
yeah,
before?
we had some tarps over the servers, but you know, if those pipes break that are down there, and like Dalton said, one of those pipes that runs through there directly over the server already has a leak out in the hallway. So, you know, those pipes are old enough that it's just a matter of time before something happens.
It's not if, it's when.
And then, but the water is the big threat we have to our server.
That's why I'm moving my election equipment up a floor when the jail moves out.
Is because of that water leak
I mean, it's over $100,000 worth of stuff down there.
and that potential is,
Well,
There.
some of it used to be where the comm center is. We all know they've had water. The rest of the equipment is just to the east of where these guys are at. And we have plastic covering everything, but
so that's going to be a priority to get that
Well, I
out
need
there
one
as
room.
soon as we get a chance.
I'll just take a room.
That
I don't
needs
care
to-
which one it
Put 'em in
is.
jail.
to come up.
Yeah, it'd be secure in the jail, wouldn't it?
Put it in the server.
You know, other than that, you know, if they got their equipment for the most part over here and I got my stuff moved up, you only have the comm center left and I don't think they're moving anywhere, so.
That's a real bendy move. Any more questions that you can come up with when I ask Dalton while he's here? I guess I didn't realize we had, you know, you see it, but you don't really put a dollar amount on it until you sit back and inventory it. So you're basically wanting to spend $30,000 trying to save $100,000 worth of equipment,
$200,000.
$200,000 worth of equipment.
That's what we have. We're at 197, I think, and that wasn't including switches. So we're over $200,000 easy.
And that question, that $30,000 system, have we gotten it quoted from other companies or is there only one company? Do you guys know? I was not at the last jail meeting, so.
You know, you bring that up, there's a lot of companies that do it. I do know that obviously not just one company does it, because there's different versions of the system and different manufacturers that, like the one I showed you was just one manufacturer, that's their design. Generally, they're all kind of similar where they have the double fault where it has to confirm it on both sides so both the controllers should go off. But yeah, that was just a general system, I guess. Novak makes one.
I think that Baden uses Midwest Contractors. I think that's who it was, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the rest of the fire suppression system in the jail. I guess my point is, Dalton, what you're doing is more not so much protection of equipment, but the time to rebuild everything, right?
I mean, yeah, I would hate to think how long that would take. And I dread it, to be honest, if that were to ever happen. So
Now, let me ask you this. These prices that you put on, are these at what are replacement cost, or are these what you feel their value at now? Because some of that stuff is, used equipment.
yeah. So actually a lot of the older equipment, the lower values, you notice they're pretty low. That's not what we bought it for. This is me looking up to replace like the NASA's and things like that. If I were to buy not through a vendor, but just go online and buy them, those are the costs like on Amazon and different websites. So
You would also have vendor costs then to come back.
and like he said, I would definitely have vendor costs and that's if I were trying to get a deal and going online and buy them, that's how cheap it'd be. So we're more than likely, if I were to sit down, we're talking a lot more, but I was just giving you guys a ballpark of what it would cost, so.
Most likely you'll would upgrade at the time if you were close.
Yeah.
Some of them anyway. You would surely consider it.
Yes, exactly.
It's really not I did ask Ken, as he understood it, the jail could function without that room if we would lose it as a fire. He'd have to manually do a lot of things, but he says it would work. But as I talked to Dalton, we might be manually doing that for a long period of time, because you're not gonna go on the open market and find a server probably in 30 days. You're probably looking at closer probably to 6 months before you.
Long rebuild time and just getting everything right.
So yeah, there's a lot more to it than just the cost of, and then that's the operation of the courthouse will suffer because of that too, so.
Well, I mean, if I'm rebuilding a server, we don't have time to respond to tickets. I mean, at that point, especially, it would just be a nightmare. Wouldn't be good.
Now, do all those servers control Courtney's work, control the recorder's work, control
Everybody.
everything?
Sheriffs, engineers.
Everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would kind of be in some pretty dire straits for a period. Okay. Very crabby, yeah, and I understand that too. That's the reason.
So Dalton,
Yeah.
if you get a fire in, say, the last item on that list, a switch for $5,500, and the suppression system goes off,
Yeah.
are all the other items protected?
Yes, so the good thing about the suppression system is there's no residue left over. So literally, Dean, like if a fire were to happen in that switch, and a fire were to come up, it would fill the room with gas and more than likely just localize it just so that switch, I mean, the gas would be gone in 5 minutes. So I come in there, I could pull the switch, move everything over to one of my secondaries, and we'd be back up and going. Whereas if we had a water suppression system, I might not find the fire for 10, 15 minutes, let's say, and it's going to get to burn in. We're going to have a lot more room equipment along with that.
So then it would protect the everything except the item that is on fire.
Well, obviously, yeah, it can't reverse damage. But yeah, but the good thing about it is it puts it out immediately. Because when that gas is total filling, so it goes up underneath tables, it goes inside of equipment. So if the fire were to be happening inside the switch, they're enclosed by a metal casing, it would actually penetrate through the fans and come in and put the fire out inside of there. So it's a pretty nice system for saving equipment.
A key thing for me is if whether or not we're going to get a discount on our insurance. And I understand that using the word convenience is certainly an understatement, because replacing this equipment would be more than an inconvenience, but the data is off-site. We're actually improving our situation by moving it to the jail from the current location. So we are improving it. It is insured. I have trouble spending $30,000 to protect something that's insured. What we're protecting is the problems involved with getting back up and running. If we get a big insurance discount, I think that it would be very understandable at spending this money, considering the possibility of a problem occurring. I think it's quite a bit of money to be spending. That's my thought. And we need to contact the insurance company to get an answer on whether or not we would get a discount or not on the insurance.
Well, I agree with you, Neil. That's a lot of money, but at the same time, I always think of insurance as a lot of money too. You always don't want to have the inevitable happen and then wind up thinking, oh crap, you know. It is a lot of money, but I can see the problem with the water suppression or with the water system in there. You are going to do just more than put the fire out. You're going to damage everything.
Well, and I know as well as anyone, insurance claims are not too good on your premiums either. So if we did have to file one, I mean, we might end up paying more in the long run as far as premiums go.
Well, this is a lot like getting hacked. If you don't spend the time and do the due diligence to keep from getting hacked, you're going to lose all your processes in your courthouse and courthouse system. This is I know it's expensive, I get it, but I just think it's a huge plus for us because we don't want to lose the services we have for a long period of time, because I don't think we can get everything back up quickly enough. We may save a few pieces with this new system. We're going to struggle with that particular piece. I understand that, but whatever service that part held in our program, but I just think the 30,000 is yeah, it's a lot of money, but I think it's well worth the money.
Dalton, in the server room, are there enough combustibles that if something would go wrong with one of the things that the fire would spread?
Well, here's the deal. We have two battery backups in the bottom of the rack. I think they're 3400 XLs, which is a huge lithium battery. And I'm sure you all know what happens when lithium batteries get hot. It's a bomb. So, yeah, I guess there is some combustibles in there right on the bottom of the rack.
Okay.
One of our biggest fire hazards in the jail will probably be this room. You've got the furnace, which the furnace system, that could be an issue. Your electronic, where your power all comes together, that is a potential. But this might be the highest potential we have in that building, because everything is pretty much steel and concrete in there. And those don't cause any issues. Well, this one could be our highest. I think, first of all, I think that we would get a discount on it, but I still think this is probably one of our highest potentials in that building.
The jail is occupied 24 hours a day. What's the situation with this particular location? Is it under surveillance 24 hours a day or what?
So this is on the third floor. The server room is, so that would be under just lock and key, I guess, more than anything. I think the
Is there
third
a
floor.
camera inside of it?
I haven't seen the complete proposal for cameras. I don't know where they're all gonna go.
I can't tell you that, Neil. I don't know whether we're monitoring with the camera or not.
What I was, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Rich. I was thinking, since the jails are being monitored 24 hours a day, could they perhaps have a camera at that location or a buzzer go off if it reaches a certain temperature and, you know, have the human protection as opposed to the gas protection?
What would the human do?
Well, probably go in there with the correct fire extinguisher and put the fire out. A non-water fire extinguisher, chemical fire extinguisher.
Yes, that's our current plan. We do have one fire extinguisher in the IT office that is non-water, but you have to be, somebody be there and be able to respond in a timely manner. And I don't know if you've got the staffing to do that.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, just thought.
Yeah,
I think everybody's brought up fantastic questions, and I think before we even go any further, I think some of the questions that have been asked need to be answered, like the insurance premium and things like that. Neil, I think you're right, you know, who likes spending $30,000? It's really expensive, but also you have an investment in that room, and then on top of that, if that server room goes down, I question if Dalton's not gonna be having, because I assume you'll be on a beach somewhere, Carl. He'll have overtime and he'll have to pull somebody else in. I mean, at what point do you spend over $30,000 trying to get that room back up and running?
You
Which
can spend
runs our
over
whole
30,000 in vendor costs.
30,000 and then costs.
Easily.
So I don't know, I think you need to get some more answers for us, and then,
That's fine, and I can agree with that. You guys have all brought up really good questions and things that I didn't even think about, so.
one more question I'd like for you to find an answer at. The price of this was 30,000 plus. What's it cost for a retrofit if we don't do it?
My question is, if you got a certain vendor in the jail proposal, and can we bring another one in? You know, like you say, on a retrofit, so
Yeah.
does Feld do this? I don't know. I mean.
Right, and do we have to use that vendor? Can we go outside? If we decide to pass on it now and in 2 years, obviously, we're gonna look at product increase, but also there's a cost of retrofitting that back into a system that is already built in there. And I think that's probably one of the advantages of using the same vendor for both, because they know they will fit with.
Well, especially if they interact with each other.
Yeah.
I think now will be time to do it. If you're going to be interacting with each other, you don't want to have one system that does this, another system that does something else, and then has a hard time communicating with each other. I think, and I think that's the reason. I think Stephanie asked that there's only one bid so far, and I think that's because Bading has been using this Midwest Auto Fire system, and I think that's the reason he went to them, so they can communicate together. That's my assumption anyway. But I think that's an important issue. I think that if we're going to do it, I would sooner do it now than later because of that fact.
So is this server room a dedicated server room for IT equipment, or are we sharing other utilities like Rich, you mentioned a furnace and that type of thing?
No, there's nothing else. As I understand it, that room is for the servers. Now, I don't know where the rest of the air handlers and all that stuff are around it. I don't think there's anything close to it. I was just looking at the potentials in a building that can catch on fire, and those are some of the ones, and this is probably one of the higher ones because it's so temperature sensitive also.
Well, Dalton brought up a good point. Them lithium batteries in the bottom of that rack. That's explosive.
We've seen the lithium stories out there. So let's see, look at this. Do you want to get more information? I don't want to slow the progress of the jail down, and I think we're out ahead of this, in front of this far enough that this won't make any difference if we kick it down the road a week or two and get more information on some of these questions we've had. I think that's probably the right thing to do, is to get some more answers, and before we can make a little bit better decision. Is that kind of the wishes of the board?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine with me. I think the insurance one is a good question to ask. I don't know if that's gonna change my decision, my thought process, but I would like to know that.
It might make it more palatable.
Yeah, if we
Right.
get thinking,
Could get us
Insurance.
4 or 5%, that's a big deal, but.
Well, I understand where Neil's coming from. You know, the last thing I hate is paying for insurance. And I don't know what's gonna happen down the road. I mean, that's what you're basically doing with this thing. But you don't want to be caught with your drawers down either.
Oh. Okay, so will you get those list of questions?
Yes.
Send them out to us in an email so we can start pondering them and then we can respond back. If you have any more questions, when Dalton asks you a question, be sure and ask him back. Copy us all in so we can see what the conversation's going, so.
Just let me know.
But I do think we should try to get this done next week if we can, because I don't want to hold up that.
I don't want to delay anything.
I agree. We need to.
Yeah.
They were expecting us to give them answer this week. I think next week we better for sure.
Okay, very good.
Actually, Dalton, I think, could you get a hold of Beatty and let him know what we came up with today? So he knows where we're at,
That's fine.
especially when you have any questions of him.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Anybody got any questions online? Okay, very good. Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
so we're gonna kind of push that down the road. The next thing up is the payables for this period.
Wanted to let everybody know, under the Board of Supervisors, Coon Rapids Enterprises, the taxes due add for $48. That is being moved to the treasurer's department. It got put in the board. Board usually pays for publications, but that was the publication that the treasurer usually pays for, so they got moved.
Check that one for 10 point, huh?
10-point construction.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Do you guys have any questions on the payables?
I've had my questions answered earlier today. I would make a motion that we approve the claims.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of today's payables. Any more discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next thing up is the manure management for Wayne Reesburg Farm, Section 21 of Roselle Township. That is a change in crop rotation and use of manure analysis. We have a few minutes till 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead and pick off some committee reports. Who would like to go first?
I'll start. And Monday I had the radio and newspaper, which I did do. On Wednesday, I had the Coalition of Human Services meeting, and there's a lot going on in mental health. I think the fact that people are affected by COVID-19, perhaps being kept in their home, spotlights a lot of the problems and magnifying problems that were already there. There are also some financial problems, and a lot of the meetings have been canceled or changed to Zoom, which are not quite as effective when you're working with people. Thursday had the Shive Hattery meeting, which we, I think where everybody was at, and the clean agent system was a big deal there, which we discussed. This week, this afternoon, I have the second judicial district. We're going to talk about what to do on the director's performance evaluation. And we also have an executive board vacancy with Ken Abrams having been an active member until his untimely death. Wednesday, I have a Rolling Hills meeting, and two big things on the agenda there are the admission of two new counties into the region, what we're going to do there, and also the spending of a lot of CARES money. We have a lot of applications for that. That concludes my committee reports. Unless there are questions.
I can go next. On Tuesday, I sat in on the city housing issue up at Fairview. I was in attendance on that, regardless what the newsletter that came out over the weekend says. But they did have a lot of different partners there. They're looking at a lot of different angles. The owner was there also. They're trying to get things. Things have improved since they've taken over, but they want to improve it more. One of the things that's come up is about getting cameras in the facility, and they just had a lot of conversations with all the different partners. I think even the faith-based people were there, rural development, about what we can do as far as changing their applications for applying to live there and background checks. So there's a lot of topics discussed on it. I think it was a good step in the first direction to get things better under handle up there. So I think it was a very positive meeting. Then on Tuesday at noon, then I had a CADC board meeting. We talked about the private investment that they were going out. They expect the budget usually $40,000 for that. We did do a budget amendment. They moved some money around with this COVID, that there's got some extra money but they're using it for this retail coach. And they talked about there's the visits that they're doing with the different business on the end of the year again. And they're also on the website, they talked about updating it, about putting a tax page on there for local taxes for prospective businesses. We also talked about business assistance. There's still money available on the COG funds out there. I think they said that 50% of the money has been allocated. There's also an apprentice program that's come up now that they're working with. On the site projects, those 3 sites, they are going to do drone videos of the 3 sites and put that in their marketing stuff. I think that's, they did have our unemployment for this month was 2.9 for September. Last year that was at 1.8. So that's where we're standing there. They have one project that that we're working with up there. We're in one of the 3 communities in the running, and that was basically about it on that. Then on Thursday, I attended the jail meeting, which Neil pretty well covered there. And then this week I have on Tuesday they have a CADC. We're having that retail coach coming in. I think maybe there's more people got invites on that, and that to go over what the program is going to be on that. Then on Tuesday evening I have policy council meeting for Head Start, and then on Thursday I have New Opportunities board meeting. And that's my week this week.
Gene, was there any explanation on the unemployment having gone up? And it has 2.9% is pretty good, but I see St. Anthony's and the welding place at Scranton is actually paying people to work there and giving them quite a bonus. I noticed where Bella and Farner and there's a lot of people wanting help. Did they comment on why there's 2.9% unemployment yet?
No, they really didn't. She just got those numbers that morning and didn't really comment too much on it. Maybe that's a comment we can ask her when she comes in today to follow up.
All right, we can do that.
But I noticed that too,
She's
Neil. You're
listening.
right. There's a
She's
lot of
listening.
places are paying bonuses now for sign-on. I think it's just because we don't have the numbers out here to people to work with.
Okay. Is that it, Gene?
Yep.
There's your presentation. Thanks for
There it
coming.
is, yeah, good job.
Somebody got a quick one you want to work in here while Shannon's
Yeah,
getting
go
her
ahead.
seat? Good?
I can go quick because I was gone half of last week. I unfortunately was unable to go to the jail meeting, so thanks for the fill in, Rich and Jean. I did have a daycare meeting Monday evening. Things are going really well at the daycare. They've been able to continue to do what they're doing. We've been a staple daycare, so people are trying to copy what we have done as a board. And honestly, I say the board, but you give 100% credit to the staff there. They're doing a phenomenal job. There was a few issues asked if we can start doing tours of the daycare, because right now they're not allowing parents inside the daycare. They do drop off right before. The board agreed that it's not the time to start doing that right now. We don't want to bring COVID into the building, so it's just better to keep it the way we're doing. And we're able to stay open financially. We had Shelley Schreck come on with Olson and Mulbauer, and financially we're doing well. She said keep doing what we're doing. So right now, I mean, there's daycares that are having to close because of COVID. So I feel very fortunate, and we're just going to keep pushing forward. That's all I had last week. And then this week, I don't have any, actually no, Dean, on Friday, do we have Emergency Coalition?
As far as I know, I don't see it on my calendar, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean.
Potentially we can have an Emergency Coalition on Friday, but that's all I have for this week.
Is this a comfort for parents that they would like to have these tours or?
It's very hard, and I can understand as being a mother and you guys being fathers that when you have a baby and if it's your first one and you're gonna go take it to a facility to be watched, it's really hard to just say, okay, here, have my infant, and you never even seen the inside. We threw around some ideas of doing after-hour tours, but right now it's just, the board did not feel right now is the time to do that. So the enrollment, we still have quite a few enrollments because a lot of the families are repeat families, so they've had kids in that facility. We've also looked at going to a camera system so parents could log in and maybe see it that way. And then a virtual, have somebody fly a drone through the facility, like Fusebox marketing, and be able to see the facility through a drone.
I did think about that, and maybe maybe you could do a nonpartisan type person where you could select someone like Shannon or myself, just to do a walkthrough, like 2 or 3 of us at the same time. That would maybe be a comfort level for, these are outsiders that really don't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, and timing is excellent. One of our projects is drone work with Fusebox in the next few weeks. So, keep that in mind.
Okay.
That might be a good fit and save some money in the videographer once instead of twice.
Yeah, I know Nikki Houghton was gonna look into the cost of what it would have to fly through.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure whether our guys that fly the drone have to have so many hours, maybe they could help participate in that. Pick up their hours. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and stop now. Shannon's here and she seems to be settled in, so these are committee reports.
Yeah, okay.
So I think we'll turn it over to Shannon from CADC and let her make her presentation, and we can all sit back and listen to her.
Thanks for having me again. I walked in on Gene's report and it sounded like he was doing a great job. So some of those things I'll duplicate, maybe give a little bit more insight, but sounds like he's keeping you well updated. I wanted to start with our business retention expansion efforts in the last few months, and that will kind of include some of that workforce conversation. As you guys probably saw, and we talked about last time I visited, business retention has been hugely critical for us right now, staying very well connected with our business community, doing what we can to provide any sort of assistance that's needed. So as you can imagine, it's across the board, from facilities that are struggling to come back. They've been really adapting to the situation, to others who have found new markets and actually have seen business growth. But, you know, a lot of our visits are done. They were collected beginning of April or beginning of October. And we were told that by the end of the year, we'll have that Best of Iowa report. So not only will we have the Iowa report from all those companies visited, we will aggregate that into a Carroll County report also for businesses to benchmark, you know, against, see what they themselves said against Carroll County businesses and Iowa businesses as well. Again, as you can imagine, it was kind of across the board, from success stories and growth stories and adaptability types of things to really talking about needs and what's going to still have to happen to keep businesses' doors open. We really, as was kind of stated by some of the economists early on, we see a first round of quick closures, but you know, there's still some struggles here in the county that we really need to be focused on. And you know, we're hopeful that come springtime, things start to turn around and look a little different, but the winter months are going to be challenging. So the chamber perspective is do everything we can to support shopping local and shop local initiatives, but CPC is really focused on those tools that we can put in the business's hands to keep things moving forward. A couple of those that you guys are familiar with, Kimberly Tiefenthaler with SBDC has been just a rock star lately. It's been awesome to have her in our office. We're able to just talk down the hall instead of setting up meetings, but still a lot of activity that way, trying to bring a resource to the business community. Also, as you guys know, Region 12 got money from EDA through the CARES Act. At our last board meeting with the projects that we saw, we've already allocated about half of that came into the region. So excellent projects, but just shows that there is such a need. So, you know, that is one pool of funding. It was CARES Act, had a little bit more flexibility than typical, but we do still certainly have a couple million that is available for other business projects as well. So lots of things happening that way. Jean brought up retail coach, so I'll go into that one. There are a number of firms out there that help with retail recruitment, and we've vetted those through the last few years. You know, you're always getting calls from vendors, but this one we found was really unique for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the front end research is hugely important. They really do focus not just on bringing new retail in, but how can we strengthen existing? What markets maybe are there where people are leaving town for that are independent and local businesses can take advantage of to grow? So the first phase of this project, as Jean mentioned, we're already kicking off tomorrow. Our consultant will be in town. We're doing lots of tours and info meeting, things like that. But the first round is really research. It's gap analysis. It's cell phone analysis to see what people are leaving town for, what they're buying online. You know, in some cases, things are being purchased out of town that they could buy here. Maybe they don't know, so it's a marketing thing. So what we really want to do is bring that to our local business community. When I say local, I mean countywide. To me, that is our market. Carroll County is who we're serving here. And then, you know, it does go forward with recruitment. I think there's a lot of education in terms of incentive policy, in terms of site and building and code and things like that that are also part of the conversation. Goodness knows it's a tough time for retail recruitment, but as we've seen, there's a lot of growth planning going on. You know, there's a lot that's going to take off. I think through the 6-month time frame, as we've really studied COVID and the decisions that have been made, it really depended on cash position. Those businesses that had a good, strong cash position are growing. They're acquiring property. They're making plans to expand, where those that were very much focused on debt were challenged, and we've seen that. So, you know, we know that realistically our retail footprint's going to look a little different than it has in the past, but we also feel like we're in a strong position here. Carroll County is seen as a hub for retail, for education, for employment, for so many things. And we see a lot of that when people come to town for healthcare. You know, they do explore our community. We have a lot of conversation about that. So we feel like it is really critical so that we don't further slide. If you guys remember, one of the last times I was here, we talked about the retail trade analysis for Carroll and Carroll County, and essentially it was flatline, and that was data from before COVID. And so, you know, what is being invested is absolutely an investment, not an expense. As we continue to bring growth opportunities to local existing businesses, maybe some new business. We do win through local option sales tax, through added foot traffic, things like that. So, it is all secular as well. We feel like having a strong retail community, which does include some eating options and things, it supports that BRD initiative too in our existing industry in trying to bring in their workforce. So, like I said, tomorrow our consultant will be out and that'll begin our 90-day research phase. And hopefully soon after the first year, we're ready to really dig in and go further with that. That said though, we don't hire them and just see businesses happen. The analogy I've used is that they truly drive them to our city limits and it's up to us to sell. We still have to have the site, the building, the package that they need, the workforce that they need. There's lots that goes into that. So part of the agreement with the city is that we can staff up and provide someone that is a little bit more focused just specifically on this project. So we're trying to grow our team to accommodate that as well. That said, I'll slide into my shovel-ready site piece. The process is similar but different. It is about sites and buildings and selling your community. In essence, whether it be a project like a Pella or a retail store, you have to tell them the story of your community and do a lot of marketing. So there is a lot going on that way, a lot of change and transition from a website update to content updates. As I mentioned, we're doing a threefold project with Viewsbox on the marketing side. First of all, it will be drone footage of the 3 shovel-ready sites we chose. We've gotten the site data back and we are working on property options, and now it's time to tell the story so that people well outside of Carroll County see what we have available. We're also working on, we call them bookends, an intro and an exit, so that whatever we put in the middle, if it be a company talking about workforce opportunities, or DMAC talking about new programming, or I myself am talking about different initiatives of CDC, just building that brand and continuity so that whatever's in the middle has the same intro and exit, so that it is just becoming more and more familiar. And then the final piece with Austin is some testimonial work about the strength of Carroll County and why businesses are choosing here. So lots going on the marketing front. I did bring our Partners in Progress piece. I'll leave extras with Courtney for you guys to take a look at. These are the pieces that kind of talk about what we've done over the last year to go out to our private investment partners. That campaign has opened up. We do reach out to the private sector to match what the government contribution is to CDC. So I'll leave these. It's a lot of words, we know that, but this year has been a really interesting story. We've had to do a lot of things we weren't used to. We've done a lot of pivoting, and we've still tried to continue with some of the projects we promised at this time last year. So you can take a look at all of that. Like I said, for those of you not here, I'll leave them with Courtney in her office, but lots going on. Related to the workforce piece, I think our unemployment numbers are creeping down to where they were before, which is a challenge for our employers. I did have a release just this morning saying that the United States Department of Labor has seen that Iowa's recovery has been strong and those extended benefits will be ending this week. So I think that's going to change the landscape a little bit when some of those unemployment benefits change, and I guess time will tell. But certainly throughout the conversations we had with our business community, regardless of where they were at in terms of still struggling, growing, maintaining, whatever it may have been over the last 6 months, labor nearly every single time came up as a challenge. There's still great initiatives going on with DMAC and with the school systems through the LPM project, but some of those things are kind of challenging given COVID. So we'll just do a good job to try to keep that stuff out in front of everyone. My final notes in the other section, and I'll open it to questions. The Empower Rural Iowa grants, I feel like they came kind of quickly. We didn't have a whole lot of lead time to get those out, but we did have several businesses in Carroll County receive grant funding, which is excellent. Relates to education and programming, apprenticeships, etc. So I think 3, to my knowledge, were awarded funding and a second round has opened up. And then we've been watching the outcomes of the governor's task force on recovery. It's been kind of interesting. There were 18 areas that were emphasized in that initial report. It included a lot of things, again, pre-COVID. It was broadband and accessibility, it was education and workforce programming, it's housing, it's childcare. Lots of those things that were issues before are certainly still the main themes coming out into recovery. So not sure what we'll see on programming yet. I think there's going to be a lot to come, especially given that we're kind of ramping up that legislative session preparation. But all in all, that's about what I know. The final note, I am a board member for Professional Developers of Iowa. Last year, we did legislative roundtables throughout the state. This year, they're all going to be virtual, but if anyone would like the opportunity to just hear what legislators are saying, kind of prepping for that session, you're certainly welcome to join those as well. So with that, that was about an hour's worth of meeting in about 10 minutes. So I apologize for throwing that at you, but wanted to open up to questions too and hear what you're interested in hearing about.
One of the challenges I think that we're faced with is having the workforce for the right person. And that's a balance that, tell me what the business is gonna be and I'll tell you what the workforce needs to look like.
Right.
Or I'll tell you what the workforce looks like and then you have to find the business. So it's a tough one to try to crack.
It really is.
Do you think that, and I'm sure, and I know Joel very well, and I think that he does a wonderful job down there, and I think he's got us on the right path. But I see the welders are still in high demand, and I don't know how to get that interest up. And I also kind of can tell you that I think that St. Anthony's could use some help, and we need interest there. Where does that lie? Does that lie in education? Does that lie, I mean, as a chamber trying to educate people about those jobs? Is it educate the parents that the children will be pushed that way or not pushed that way?
Yes to all of that. So to just touch a little more on the LCAM project that I mentioned, DMAC received some funding and it really is around focusing on non-traditional students. If you look at data for Carroll County, high school graduation rates are phenomenal. There are a lot of adults with a college education, but there's also a significant number of people that don't have that. So it really is about, getting people back into training so they can upskill and not be in positions that maybe aren't going to take them on a path for growth. And so that is part of the LCAN effort. One of the committees of that is the last dollar scholarship discussion. That funding came out last year. It was available to kids and it just really, we just have to continue telling the story. I mean, it's grant funding that maybe it fits a different category of kids because it's high demand career fields, including healthcare, welding and trades and things like that. But it doesn't limit the assistance to those that are meeting certain financial criteria. Whoever's willing to take that training and be invested in that career path is eligible for those funds. So I'm on the marketing committee and that's one of our specific tasks out of LCAN is educating, again, the parents, the students, bringing it to kids in the schools. And positions like Becky Bass at Carroll High, who really are there to connect the opportunities that lie in front of the kids with that business community sooner. Get the kids out doing on-site trainings and learning about those things so they don't go get a 4-year degree and then maybe after a year on the job realize that isn't what they loved. It wasn't right anyway. So, DMAC is doing a phenomenal job too of getting kids into the workplaces. We do career pathway panels. They're doing career discovery days, getting kids on site, letting them take, I think there's a healthcare business where they're going into banking. I think data and IT, they're doing one of the tours I was on, we did toying. We did the DMAC welding lab. So really just trying to expose kids a lot sooner and get them thinking about those different things. And to your point with educating parents, everyone has talked about changing that 4-year degree mindset. We know that. But the reality is people like me are baby numbers people. It all seems the same until you start talking about student loan debt and what kids can make and those types of things. And just getting that on paper and having those conversations is important. So there's a whole lot that goes into that. Automation too, not that that's coming quickly, but we've heard a lot of different conversations since COVID. And the reality is those lower paying customer service jobs are really struggling to find people. And so it's not that automation is gonna just replace people, but it's gonna create opportunities for, again, higher paid positions that are more skilled positions that people can take advantage of versus some of those lower skills. So a lot of things have to collide to make a perfect scenario for everyone to be fully staffed the way they want to be. It's not possible, but there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts and pieces. So when you talk about the schools, the business community, our office, everybody needs to be at the table and have that thought process.
I think that everyone at the table is probably the most important part of many different things. And going to something that Gene had touched on earlier, he that he went to the meeting on was it Tuesday morning that you went to the meeting with the
Yeah,
city?
Shannon was part of that too.
But that, and I thank you for doing that because I was not able to do that at that time. But that is a problem that we have in this community. And I think it's probably something that we may have in our whole region, that there's an element out there that we need those people at the lower end, entry level position jobs that can work their way up and make their life a lot better. And we need economic housing that they can get into, because you can't start a job at $9 an hour and want to live in a 3,000 square foot home. It just doesn't work that way. So those are some challenges we're going to be faced with, and this is probably the ugly side of that challenge. And I hope you continue to participate in this, because you're probably a big voice into this, what has to be happening on the other end.
I think that, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it was a very, very good approach of the city to be very upfront and open with people about what is going on there and what the city's been doing to remedy it and what their limitations are. I'm really speaking to that problem and that issue itself. But, realistically, it really is an education process. As we talked about back in 2016, when we knew there was a transition of ownership, we've talked affordable housing. And affordable housing doesn't have to mean challenged housing. It doesn't mean there has to be social problems or conditions that are unfit. Everybody, to your point, does have the right to safe, sanitary, affordable housing to accommodate their needs. And so to this issue, I think it takes a lot of collaboration. It takes a lot of partners, but it takes educating. Watching what some of the statements that have been made and the misrepresentations. We've heard people not support maybe Section 42 or maybe Section 8, not realizing that's not that property. This is USDA project. And so I think it is a lot of information, and people really do need to educate themselves as to, where do the issues lie and what part of the solution am I and what can we do about that? So, I think every community has their own unique challenges, and it's something that we all have to step up and handle. But at the same time, I think we do need to have faith and support for those that are involved day to day, because they're doing a lot of the right things. They really are. So I guess that was my opinion on that one specifically. Okay. But to your point, we knew when we did the housing study that housing is a challenge, and that no contractor is going to say they can come build you $180,000 homes without something. It takes a lot of people coming to the table, whether it be tax increment financing to help with investments in property acquisition, infrastructure development, what have you. We look at a lot of examples, and a lot of those communities that are putting housing in at that more affordable level, whether it be rental or ownership, the city or the county or whoever, there's a lot of partners that are coming to the table financially to make that happen too, because it just isn't feasible to build market rate affordable housing right now.
As I said on their Region 12 board, that is the whole entire region struggles with all those answers.
Absolutely.
And they struggle all the time with it. And there's no magic bullet. It's just people have to figure it out. Well, there's a way to figure it out. You just have to get down and get it.
I think we've seen some good examples, you know, the city of Carroll, what they've done with the city apartment lot, for example, you know, it's investing to what level you have to make it an attractive option for the private sector to take that on. I think that a lot of people have really been enlightened with some of the projects that have happened in terms of what cool, unique solutions can be found in each community. So,
I'm asking you a question because I know you know the answer.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just want to throw this out there too, because obviously with COVID, you guys have been on the forefront. How much discussion has happened about footprints not being there as much because people have companies, bigger companies have seen maybe they can go more virtual. They don't need to have a brick and mortar facility. Is that concerning for Carroll? Because I know we've got some business partners out there that have big footprints, and I guess for me personally, I get a little concerned. I'm just like, ooh, you know, the what if, it's the hypothetical. It's not,
Right.
hey, they're just not gonna come back. But
Right.
what does the CADC put some thought into that? Or even a distribution company, let's say they decide they don't wanna come here, they wanna go to like Algona, let's say, or Altoona area. What keeps them here?
Right.
Have you guys had that?
We've had a lot of discussion on that, and when we had Christopher Lloyd, site consultant, works nationally, and to me, brilliant mind. But you know, a lot of the things that he said are things that we've been working on. For example, very specifically what I thought was honestly applause to our region, when he talked about the 5 sectors that will see growth, those are the 5 target industries that we identified 5 years ago as where Carroll County and the Western Iowa Advantage region needs to be in terms of focusing on how we grow. You know, there are things that we can't compete with. And the reality is though, the value added ag and food processing, those are our sweet spots. You know, we need to really focus on not only what assets we have in the region in terms of the raw materials, but the labor. You know, farm kids know what they know and they're hard workers. And so if we're bringing up that talent pipeline in those industries specifically, there's a lot of opportunity there. That said, we absolutely have the concerns you're mentioning. There's a lot of opportunity for businesses to move. There's also a lot of opportunity for us to be attractive in those areas where maybe political climate, social unrest have been challenging. We've seen that just within the Midwest. One of the projects Gene alluded to, and I didn't have it on my notes here, was we have seen more RFPs come in than we ever have since I've been here. One of them, we are one of the top 3 communities, and when I say that, I mean Carroll County as a whole. We put in 5 sites countywide end of August, and we are one of the top 3. And it is a project coming out of a metro area that has seen unionized labor, that has kind of changed a little bit. They're seeing, again, that support from the governmental units needs to be there for them to be successful, and they're challenged with that right now. So I think, again, back to our marketing and our shovel-ready sites, I think that we have to be very prepared with our assets and to tell people our stories, because there will be movement. I think, you know, there's a little bit of hesitation given the election, waiting on that vaccination process or whatever becomes of the COVID solution. But there is opportunity here, and we need to compete. So while a lot of organizations are really tightening their belt due to COVID and questioning, will we be funded from our city or our county, right now is the time to be investing more, because we have a story to tell and we need to staff up and be able to reach out to those. You know, the site consultant, you used to have to fly them in, and we saw virtually how we can connect with them and tell them our story. So we have to do our job a little bit differently, but it certainly is the time for me, my opinion, we need to be gassing it, not hitting the brakes, because we have a lot to fight for here. We're a pretty neat area.
And Shannon, on to tag on to that site selector meeting that we had, Chris Lloyd, I think his name was, you know, that was one of the things that I took out of that meeting, was that these businesses are not holding back on shutting down their plans for improvements. Most of them are moving on. There's only about 5% of them that are actually pulling their plans. The rest are moving forward. I thought that was kind of that just shocked me.
He mentioned where a lot of them were on pause to wait for the COVID thing to clear up. And so if there's not movement now, there will be movement in the future.
Right.
His job look easy.
What's that?
He made his job look easy.
He's just a phenomenal mind.
He did.
I love everything he has to listen to him.
Yeah.
I do.
He's in front of.
Mhm.
Shannon, did you catch that when you came in that Neil was talking about, and I was telling about the unemployment rates? Why that, the difference there?
Yeah, Shannon, Gene gave a very good report. And one thing that he mentioned was in September, our unemployment rate had gone from 1.8 to 1.9%, which is increased 1%. I assume that this is temporary because of people getting laid off due to the COVID, but I don't know for sure. What is your answer to that question? Why has unemployment increased by 1%? When there are a lot of businesses around town asking for employees?
So the numbers that he gave were September of 19 was at 1.9 and September of 20 is at 1.8, I believe, or it might be two.
No,
2.8.
19 was 1.8, and 20 was 2.9.
Okay, so yeah, as you can imagine, with COVID, our number was up more like the 5 and 6%, and every month it's continuing to trend back downward. You know, I think it'll be really interesting to hear some of those that work with that day to day, even workforce development, as they really kind of study some of this. But I would say we're on track according to expectations. You know, there were programs that really supported those that were able to be at home. You know, some were faced with challenges with childcare. We've seen some that that needed to care for family members, or some that simply just really, with underlying conditions, felt that the best scenario was to be at home and not to be out. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, I'm really curious to see what November and December look like, given that those extended benefits from the Department of Labor at the federal level are going away the end of this month. I think that happened kind of quickly, honestly, to have that announcement. And I don't know what I think. I need to research it more, so please don't quote me. I only saw one article. But if they really are basing that incentive state by state on a recovery, I think that's really kind of interesting. So I have a lot more research to do to understand some of that. But all in all, where we're at though, I wouldn't be comfortable with 2.9%. That says we still have a workforce issue. So, you know, I'd be okay staying here, and we know that we're going to continue to trend downward, especially once we hit spring and things open back further. So I guess I'm not surprised by it at all. That would be my assumption, is that some just maybe haven't returned to work. I know some of our employers aren't quite yet at full speed. You know, maybe some shifts haven't been brought back online, or some lines aren't happening quite yet. So I think that's to be expected with where we're at.
Thank you, Shannon.
Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, I've got long answers for everything. It's, I have to say, while I'm not loving COVID one bit, it has been a phenomenal case study every week to just see how things are reacting and adapting, and how business is continuing the best it can. And geez, we're living in interesting times that are going to be talked about for a lot of years, I think.
Understatement.
So yeah, anything else? Like I said, we have got so many projects. You know, in the coming weeks or month or so, I would love to sit down with you guys. Maybe if we, you know, I would love to answer whatever questions you have, because at this point you just get little segments of a lot of different things. So definitely reach out if you're interested though. I would love to make time to just sit down and go over a lot of this further. So.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm gonna leave these for you guys. You all know how to find me. Thanks for
Any
listening.
questions online or any of this? Bean, you have anything, any questions?
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted. That's okay though.
I didn't catch that.
So I think, oh, so.
Thank you, Shannon. I don't have any questions. Good update.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes,
that.
yes.
I do appreciate it. Everybody else done?
Yeah, no.
No?
No, I think Dean, you still have to go with
Yeah.
committee
Sorry.
reports, correct?
I thought we had two.
Yeah, I can go with my committee report. This last week, I just had the jail meeting, but we had a lot going on with the contact tracing that I'll report on. We originally hired 3 individuals for this project. Those 3 individuals are currently not contact tracing. 2 of them were COVID related, and one of them was just the difficulty with the software that the Iowa Department of Public Health has, and this person just could not conquer that step. And so it's not that this individual is completely out of the picture. This individual would be good at some point in time once I think the current tracers get it down and understand it. So the first 3 that we hired are not actually tracing at this time, but we're hiring another one this week who should be a good individual. So we have been counting on, our county individuals basically to carry us through, and they're doing a very good job. I mean, I think the numbers are going up, so it makes it challenging. I think we had 27 the day before yesterday. We had 39 yesterday. So the numbers are going up in the county. The death rate is now at 12. So this is an ongoing situation, and I think it's probably not going to get better for a while. The contact tracing is quite a different animal. I think, and maybe I mentioned this, that the first contact with these individuals is probably the most important, whether it be a doctor or, and the one that's probably not as effective would be an email from the IDPH. So it makes it pretty challenging. It's difficult, but our county employees are doing a marvelous job in keeping us current. They're doing a very good job. So that's my report on that. This week I've got a Region 5 hazmat meeting on Thursday. It'll be a quarterly meeting. So that's it for me. Any questions on that?
All right, thanks, Dean. I got some catch-up work to do, means I wasn't here last week. Region 12 work, and I believe Steph and Neil participated in that, so I won't cover all that. But I will jump over to the Region 12 Rural Loan Fund. We did meet, I believe it was last Thursday, and we issued 3 loans. 2 were pretty standard and fairly low asking. They were good, solid loans. One was a very expensive loan for nearly $500,000 to a company that has just landed a Department of Defense contract for eggs, and they need some equipment to help freeze dry these eggs faster in a more timely fashion. So they will be bringing that up, and that is located in Panora area. And that's going to be a huge bump for them down in that region. Then I moved on to last week was fairly calm. Jail meeting on the 22nd at 8. And everybody was there. And that was just not really a meeting. It's more of the Baiting Construction makes their presentation on how the project's going and any questions for the owners while we're there. Next thing up in the same day was a Workforce Iowa Workforce Development that was held in Harlan. I did attend that by Zoom. in interest of time, so I could make 2 different meetings. That was the CEOs of every county. We finalized all our bylaws. Everything for finance was all put in place in the morning. And then we had a kind of a meet and greet right after lunch. Was with all the leadership board that will report to the workforce development people that will help design the programs that are needed for their own particular needs for their companies. And that's a broad spectrum of people, from owners to unions to private individuals. It's a large board. It's about, I think there's 11 on it, and we're looking for 2 more people to make it, move it to 13. These 2 positions have to be exact positions. We need a lady that's involved with construction and is a Republican or an independent. I find this kind of ironic that we can ask those questions for this board, but if you're hiring someone, you can't ask them that. So I found that kind of interesting. That was pretty much the last week. This week I have nothing in front of me other than I have the CEO board where we will meet at noon on Friday for usually about a 35-minute to 45-minute Zoom call. We've been doing everything by Zoom. It's just so much easier with 18 counties involved. It's easier to get people together. I have nothing, like I said, nothing else in front of me this week. Courtney, what is on the agenda for next week?
Probably talk about that claim agent system. And I do have a plat, but I'm assuming we'll need to take care of.
Okay. Anything else that anybody would like to add to the agenda for next week or keep on our radar other than what Courtney just talked about? Okay, I have one other question. I walked by the little red car last week that's sitting
Got
on
a
our.
flat tire.
Hello?
It's got a flat tire, right?
It's got flat tires, and so I checked into it. The last time it was used was November of 19. It was signed out. So my question is, why do we still have it? I think we should consider moving it down the road. It should add a little bit of money to our capital expense that I think that we very well could use, and Zach very well could use maybe a snow blower for the front of his riding lawnmower, because as we get to jail further along, he's gonna have more sidewalk and more things to deal with than we had before. And if we're gonna try to keep it in a one-man band organization by doubling the size of the building, we need to get him some equipment that he can make that work a little quicker with. So I think we should consider it and maybe bring it up for discussion maybe next week. Like I said, the last time it was used was November, and 911 people used it. And it's, as Carl explained to me the last time he used, and I asked Jason Hoffman the last time he used it, and he said the brakes need fixed, and they're probably just rusted up so bad that they sound like they need fixed. And they very well could need fixed too. So there's money to be put into it. And how do we want to just keep it for that? It's kind of in the way anyway. So not totally my opinion. It's just something I think we need to visit about and maybe move it down the road.
Put it on the agenda for next week.
Sounds good. Give it some thought, and we'll discuss it again next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've used the car to go to a few meetings, but everything is by Zoom now.
I know. And I think we're going to be in this current climate for, I'm going to say 6 months. I hope it's only 6 months. I'm thinking probably closer to 9, but I'm hoping 6. Okay, if nothing else, we also have a visitor here today, Colby DeWitt from Senator Ernst's office is here. And he would like to maybe say something really quick. He's gonna keep it real short, and if you guys have any questions for him, he'll take those.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Colby DeWitt with Senator Joni Ernst's office. And don't worry, I'm not here campaigning. I actually work for her as senator, not as candidate. So I just wanted to stop by. One of my goals is to visit every county board of supervisors once a year. COVID derailed that a little bit, but it's good to catch you guys here in October. So I just want to say that I love the conversation you had this morning because my mental vision of Carroll is always as a kind of a proactive, progressive community. And you have Shannon over here, who's, a big thinker, high octane kind of gal. And also your discussion about fortifying your IT is very timely because I've had a lot of meetings with DHS and the FBI about cybersecurity. And we also saw a couple months back, Fort Dodge's system, or the Fort Dodge Community School District, their system was hijacked and held for ransom. I don't actually know how that ended up, but it's kind of scary that that's how close that all this is. So again, you guys are having good, timely, proactive discussions, which is great. I'll say it's on the rarer side as I visit different counties, so keep it up. Also, I heard a lot of talk this morning about the CARES Act, so it's good, with a lot of the different agencies. So it's good to hear that that's being well utilized. And with that all being said, I think I'll just close it there because I'm the bookend of this meeting. If there's any questions you all have, feel free to let me know. Or if anybody wants my contact information, I'm happy to share that as well. But thanks for giving me the opportunity to visit and to address you all.
Thank you, Mr. Blue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colby.
Any questions? All right,
I do want to comment, and this is only remotely related, but they have broke ground symbolically for the new jail in Guthrie County. It's on the front page of one of the Baird or Bagley, I think it was a Baird paper.
Courtney, do you have anything to add?
Just that I'd like to keep Monday's meeting very short.
Yes, next week.
Yeah, Tuesday's the election and Monday we're gonna be opening absentees. We have well over 5,300, I think, or 50, I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, a
Kind of
lot.
all blurred.
She has a lot.
Lots.
A lot.
So I know we have a couple things on the agenda and that's fine, but I would like to-
I will revisit with her Thursday, and if it's not a huge hot button, we might consider delay. So, but we'll let you know by the end of the week.
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thanks, everybody.
And Stephanie